Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today I have this cute little happy cinnamon bun by Simon Says Stamp. I'm also using the Critter Sweater set by Simon Says Stamp, and I am using the My Favorite Things Stitched Arch Stacks. I'm going to use the largest one in that set. So I'm going to cut my cinnamon bun out of some Nina Solar White cardstock, and then I'm going to start coloring it with Copic markers. I'm going to use the E39 on the very edge and at the top. Notice I'm not coloring the same width at the top all the way around. So I'm kind of varying it because the icing is sort of going to hang over it just a little bit. So I want it to be a little dark at the top and on the sides. And then I just kept moving toward the middle as I got lighter in my colors. Next, I'm going to color the top of the cinnamon bun, and I'm using the E57, 55, and 53 combination. So the other ones were in the 30s, these are in the 50s. It's just a little bit of a different color brown so that there's just kind of some variation. So I'm following the lines of the die with the darkest one first, and I'm just sort of playing around with it, like pulling out from those dark lines with the 55 and the 53. And then I also decided to go all the way around the edges with the E53 to give it a little bit of dimension. Not on every single edge. You can see I did on the left side of the part where it's kind of dripping over. And then I just kind of played around with it, and I'm doing more on the edge here, and then I also decided to kind of pull up a little bit with a little color so that it wasn't so stark white. Now I'm going to take a 0 colorless blender, and I'm just going to go over the whole thing, and it's going to fade it a little bit, and it's also going to combine some of the colors so that they look more blended. And notice I'm spending a lot of time on the bottom part where I drew those lines because I don't want it to look like lines, but I definitely want you to be able to see some color. Now after I did that, I went back in with the E57 and the E55, and I just darkened up some of the areas, and I also tried to make it a little bit more random because I felt like my colors were really smooth, and so you can see I'm drawing sort of some jagged lines to make it look like it's not the perfect cinnamon bun. And then finally, I'm going to make one more round with my 0 colorless blender to get those colors blended out. I'm going to cover the whole top with glossy accents. The first time I did this, I put a little bit of glossy accents on my craft mat and used a brush to apply it, but I felt like it wasn't thick enough. So this time I'm going to actually do glossy accents directly on top of it. So it's a really thick layer. I think I like this a lot better. I'm going to set that off to dry and color my eyes. I'm just using a 110 Copic marker, and you could use black cardstock if you want to, but this was it just seemed easier to me. Now I've already put my stamps into my MISTI, so I figured I'd just leave them in there. I just picked 3 or 4 of those lines and lined them up so that they were kind of in the middle of the MISTI. And then I'll take my card base, which is Very Vanilla by Stampin' Up. I'll put it in the upper left-hand corner. You can see how it's going to stamp on the right side. I'm using Simon Says Stamp Fog ink. I wanted a tone-on-tone, but the Versamark ink wasn't dark enough. But the fog actually looked pretty good. So once I get that right side stamped, I'm just going to move my cardstock over to the right side of the MISTI. I'll ink it up again with some fog ink, and now I'm going to stamp the left side. Now they're going to overlap in the middle, but that's not a big deal because I'm covering it up with this die cut with my arch stacks. I'm going to put some tape runner on the back and center it onto my card base. I have this Thinking of You set by Hero Arts. I've had it, I think it's probably my very first stamp set. So I pulled my sentiment from that, and my speech bubble, I forgot to show you, it's from a Halloween die set, so I'll list that in the blog post. I'm going to put some tape runner on the back of the bottom of my cinnamon roll and place it there on the white part. Then I'll put some Scotch foam so that my icing in the top is sort of popped up a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my speech bubble, put some Scotch foam on that and pop it up at the top. Now I'm going to put my eyes in. I'm just going to put some 2A glue on there, and I'll use my Pick Me Up stick to pick it off the Post-it and put it right there in the hole. And I was surprised how easily it came off the Post-it. I thought it might stick there, but it really didn't stick hardly at all. So once I get those two placed, I'm going to create a shadow with some Copic markers. I started with a W5 and just went around the bottom of the cinnamon roll. Then I took W3 and kind of blended that out a little bit, and then finally did that same thing with the W1. This last step I think makes a huge difference. I take one shade darker, this W7, and just barely tap in some color right underneath the cinnamon roll because that's where it's going to be the darkest shadow. So I add a little bit to the left and then a little bit to the right. And then I pulled that color out just a little bit with the W5. You can see I'm making it a little bit darker, and then just a little touch with the W3. And that is the card for today. So this cute little cinnamon bun is adorable. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.